What's up, family? This is part 3 of a video testimony on how jail is hard, but staying free is harder. Again, I was born in 1986. I'm 39 years old. God willing, in a couple of months, I'll be 40 years old. Never been to prison. Never been locked up for long periods of time. Got into a couple of, got into a couple of situations where God got me out. And, I'm grateful for that. To this day, I think about some of the things I've done in the past and God got me out of, and it just makes me so much more grateful as I get older. But you know, one of the one of the main things that can get you in trouble with the law is domestic issues. So, you know, I love women just like any other man does. Most men, anyway. But you have to be careful when you're dealing with women. Women have to be careful when they're dealing with men. Now, going back to my old video, I talked about how we can be programmed for chaos. And there's many different situations. What you see growing up, if your parents are fighting, or you lived in a single household, or you went through trauma, you had parents that were, in my situation, I had parents that were, had suffered from mental illness, drug addiction, blah, 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 blah. That's another video. But how we act when we're with our significant other is pertinent to our freedom. In my last video, I talked about how if you do get into it with a woman, as a man, your only recourse is to leave. The other recourse is to call the cops. Most men are not going to want to do that, so you need to just get gone. Now, if you can't do that, if you can't control your emotions enough to leave, then you're a glutton for punishment. On the other end, same thing with women. Now, women have even more recourse because they get the benefit of the doubt. So if you're in a situation where you're with a volatile man or a situation like that, you can leave, you can call the cops. There's a lot of options for you as a woman to, get away from a situation. Now, the issue is a lot of people don't want to get away from their situations. They love the chaos. And if you embrace the chaos is going to embrace you. And, you're putting yourself in position to lose your life for your freedom. So I suggest to anybody, man or woman, if you're in a domestic situation, you need to leave, or unfortunately, and I hate to say this, depending on how dire the situation is, you need to call the cops. But those are your only two options, because if not, somebody's going to jail and or worse. Now, expounding on that, nobody's worth your freedom. I don't care how much you love somebody. I don't care how much you've invested in them. I don't care how much you've done for them. I don't care what they did to you. Nobody's more important in your life for your freedom, man. And sometimes you gotta let people go. And the hardest thing to do is let people go that you love. But you can't love anybody until you love yourself. You know what I'm saying? So if you're putting yourself in a position to be harmed, then you're not loving yourself. So how can you truly love anybody else? I love, and I love hard. But just as much as I love other people, I love myself that much more. And I'm not going to put myself in a position to, lose my freedom because of somebody else's thoughts or emotions or actions. And I know it's tough. I know I'm just, talking, but listen, I've done it. I don't put my hands on females. I've never been that type of guy. I don't get anything out of it. I never understood it. I understand you. If you got to defend yourself, defend your life. I get it. Do what you got to do to defend your life. But other than that, get the hell out the way. Just leave, man. Just leave. And if the situation is that bad that you have to leave, then maybe you shouldn't go back, man. You know, I've left situations where I bought new furniture for the whole house, and you know, the rent was paid, months ahead, and everything was good on paper, but underlying was a lot of drama, and once you start valuing your peace, you'll rather sleep in a car than sleep in a king size bed with the enemy in a sense. So, you know, I'd rather be free. I'd rather be homeless and free than, you know, locked up and quote unquote justified. Excuse me. So, you know, you have to be very, very smart, and you have to be very patient with yourself, with your emotions, and with how you react. That's the difference between a boy and a man. It's a lot of boys out here, you know what I mean, and they don't realize what they've done until they're a man, and hopefully, you know, you're not in jail. You don't have to go to jail to realize it. And that's what happens to a lot of dudes. They go to jail and then they realize, like, damn. Because remember, your frontal lobe isn't developed till you're 25, 26. So you don't even have full brain function. And that's the thing, that's the dangerous part about being young. You have all the privileges of an adult, but you still have the mindset of a child. So it's like playing with fire in a sense, you know? And fire can heat the house up or it can burn it down, depending on how you treat it. So if you don't know how to play with fire, then your ass will get burned. So you got to be very vigilant, man, about who you are. And there's nothing wrong with being selfish when it comes to your protection. I don't care who somebody is. I don't care how much I love them. I don't care how close we were. Listen, if my peace and my freedom is at stake, you got to go. Because and it's so crazy because, like, let's say you get into it with your shorty and then you end up going to jail. You in jail with a whole bunch of dudes and she out there with another dude. More than likely, talking shit about you, even if it's her fault. And vice versa. If you're a woman and, you know what I'm saying? Women don't get the same consequences as men, so they end up going farther sometimes, and you end up getting your ass in trouble too. Don't think because you're a chick you can't get locked up. You know what I'm saying? So, I say that to everybody, Another thing that kept me free, I never messed with drugs. My father was a drug addict, in my younger years. He got clean when I was like 7 years old, 6 or 7 years old, thank God. But, he would take me to his NA meetings and I would hear all these horror stories. So, I never sold anything narcotic. I never touched any cocaine, heroin, pills. I didn't want no parts of it. You know what I mean? I was disgusted by it. Even if people around me, my homeboys, if they had some krills on them or something like that, I ain't really want to be around them, bro. Because it kind of just disgusted me for what it did to my family, what it's done to countless families, So that was one thing that also kept me out of a lot of troubles. I never fucked with hard drugs. Never messed with them using them. Never messed with them to sell them. It's not worth it, man. When you outside, it's too many things against you. You got cops. You got stick-up kids. You got other drug dealers, you got other haters. It's just too much. It ain't worth it, man. Dudes go to jail for 30, 40 years and they only had a 4 or 5 year run. You know what I mean? You sacrifice the 4 or 5 years of balling for 30 years of your life. I mean, the stupidity is out of control, man. I used to tell dudes, I'm like, I'm the guy that your girl messed with when y'all go to jail. Yeah, the normal guy, the go to the work guy, he gonna get that while you in jail. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, it don't matter if you got a job or you on the block. You G, you G. You fly, you fly. You know what I mean? I was just as fly working in the restaurant as dudes that were on the block. You know what I'm saying? Without the hassle. You know what I mean? I was just all the dudes on the block would come to me. You know what I mean? Come buy cars from me. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, you got to find your lane, and it's tough, especially as a black man, because you know you don't think you have so many opportunities, and you do have the opportunities that just harder to achieve because you get judged. You get judged. You know, it is what it is. Like you get prejudged. You don't just get prejudged by other races. You get prejudged by your own race. Your own race don't even believe in you half the time. So, you know, I've proved a lot of people wrong, including myself, on what I could achieve. You know, um, my grandfather had a concrete business growing up, so I worked hard labor growing up. You know, building driveways and sidewalks and steps and all that. Whether it was cold or it was summer, I don't know which one was worse. You know what I mean? Because it seems like the cold would be worse, but in the summertime, that concrete dries so fast, boy, you better be on it. But anyway, so I knew at an early age that I didn't want to, you know, do hard labor. You know what I mean? My dad told me one time, he was like, you better get you an office job or something because you don't like this shit. And I'll never forget that. That was the truth. So, you know, me being a 6'7" black man, you know, everybody just automatically thinks, hey, if you don't make it in sports, then become a bodyguard or a security guard, something like that. And I'm like, no, man, I got a brain. I don't, no disrespect to anybody who does security. It's a good living, but I don't have to put my life on the line to make a living. I got a brain. I could use my brain. I got the gift of gab. You know what I'm saying? I love sales. I love the rush, the adrenaline rush you get from closing the deal, man. Ain't nothing like closing the deal, boy. Ooh, that's my thing. But I had to program myself to say I'm more. You know what I mean? And even when I didn't think so, other people seen it in me. Just like I said, my OG, he's the one that got me in the restaurant business. He took me off. I'm right on the block. On the block in front of the liquor store. You know what I mean? Doing my thing. Excuse me. For a long time, and he was like, "Nah, son, come with me." And I went with him, and it got me all the way to here now. You know, I got friendships and relationships that are so important to me now because of, you know, me getting out of the streets, man. Because the streets don't change. The one thing about the streets, they don't change. The streets are the streets. You know, there's always going to be another generation and another another situation where people think they can do it better than the last generation. Nah, it's a revolving door of chaos and trauma. So you have to think outside the box. And you know, it's so crazy because I watch videos and content of people in jail, and these guys are the most creative guys you've ever seen in your life. They are masterminds. So why couldn't you just take that same mastermind mentality when you were free and apply it, you know, to something that's beneficial? You know, you have to get your mind. Me personally, I make these videos to make the world a better place. You have to get in the mindset, especially as a man, that your job and your purpose is to make the world a better place. I don't care what happened to you. We all got a story. We all got trauma. We all got drama. I was just telling my girl, you know, yesterday, you can go either way when you grow up in trauma. You know how they say hurt people hurt people? Well, guess what? Hurt people also heal people. There's plenty of people who's been through worse trauma than you that rose up out of it and became, you know, a better person and became an asset and not a liability to this world. You know, there's that story of the two brothers, the two twin brothers, and one of them grew up to become very successful, and another one grew up to become an alcoholic. And a homeless alcoholic, and they asked the one that was a homeless alcoholic, why did you become a homeless alcoholic? And he said, because my father drank. And then they asked the other brother, well, why did you become successful? He's like, because my father drank. So whatever you you can use whatever you want as fuel to better yourself, or you can use it to hinder yourself. It's all up to you. See, God gives us choice. You have a choice to go out there and commit that crime. You have a choice to put yourself in a position to hurt yourself or hurt others. You have a choice to better yourself. You have a choice to read. You have a choice to pray. You have a choice to have faith. You have a choice to get that job. You have a choice to start that business. You have a choice to be a better version of yourself. You can change like that. Change is inevitable. So you can change because you decide to, or you can change because you're going to have to change regardless. Life's going to change on you regardless. You get into a car accident, your life changed like that. So why can't you change for the better like that? Because God will help you. It's been plenty of times, man, where I've been at rock bottom, dude. Rock bottom. Going all the way back to when I was a child, sleeping in bus stations with my mother on the cold floor, shivering at 5 years old. All the way to as an adult, you know, figuring it out with my pallet business, sleeping in my truck sometimes. Because I wanted to save the money, you know what I mean? All the way to now. Now, you know, I'm traveling the world. I'm going on cruises. I have multiple sources of income. You know, things are just so abundant and prosperous. My children are doing phenomenal. You know what I mean? And it wasn't just like this. It wasn't, no, it was this and this and this. Then it went like that. You know what I mean? It was a roller coaster. You know what I mean? But my faith never wavered. I never cursed God when I was doing horrible. Or why me? Why me? You know what I mean? It was God. I know you love me. I know you got me, Grandma. My grandma's dead, you know what I mean? She was my heart. I know you got me. I know you love me. Just keep doing the right thing, no matter what. Now, have I been perfect? Of course not. Of course not. But I've done enough to keep myself out the way. Sometimes you just got to stay out the way. You got to be at home, in the house, bored all day. So what? It's better being in a cell. Better being in a fucking cell. If I lived in a fucking crazy neighborhood, and I have, and if things wasn't popping, or if I had beef, or if I had issues or whatever, you know what I mean? You gotta put that pride to the side. Now it's hard to say that when you're young, but listen to an OG. I'm an OG now. I'm officially an OG. I've been out here for 39, almost 40 years, and I ain't from no suburb. I ain't from no. I'm from the trenches, and I survived it. I'm here on this video right now talking to you on how to survive it. You got to stay out the way. Remember in my last video I said people, places, and things. Stay away from people, places, and things. You know, some of the things you just stay away from is drugs and alcohol. Now, I'm a recovering alcoholic, so of course I'm gonna tell you not to drink. You know what I mean? But to each his own. But if you're drinking or you're drugging or whatever you're doing is putting you in positions to lose your life or your freedom, then you gotta make a decision, man. And there's help out here. See, that's the thing. It ain't like back in the day. I mean, there was help back in the day. But now, come on, bro. I remember the first time I went to a AA meeting, I had to get out the yellow book. Look in the yellow book, find a 1-800 number, call that number, get in a, talk to somebody, and they sent me to a meeting in my area. Now, we got the phone. You can do whatever you want. There's meetings on your phone. You know what I'm saying? So there's resources out here. Y'all choose not to use them because y'all want to keep up with Joneses. You know what I mean? Y'all following social media and all this other crap, thinking that that's the truth. Most of it's a lie. Most of the people that we look up to and love are devil worshippers. To be honest with you, do your research. So it's all a facade, to keep you down. The jails are the new slave trade. They made slavery illegal, so now the only way to make slaves is to get you locked up. It's 2026. Why aren't schools better? Why aren't the neighborhoods better? We got all this money. We literally print money, but we don't put it back in our communities because it's a part of the trap. So if you fall for the trap, then your ass is grass, man. I've never met anybody who didn't get caught up. You gonna get caught up if you don't stop. Now, I do know dudes that was outside and they stopped. And they got legal and they created this or opened up this store or whatever, a beauty supply. Yeah. But if you don't have a mindset of getting out and you just thinking about busting moves and shooting and killing, and you's an idiot. You're a fucking idiot. Stop being stupid. You're better than this. God didn't create you to be a killer. God didn't create you for havoc. God created you for peace and love, but you're scared. You scared of what other people will think when you want to be positive. You scared what other people gonna think when you say you praise God. You scared what other people gonna think if you show compassion. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for looking like a demon, but you gotta act like an angel. You know what I'm saying? Remember, angels go harder than demons. So you being an angel don't mean you don't go hard. That means you go super hard because you do the right thing. We live in this devil time where it's all about being a bad guy. Everybody's rooting for the Joker. But the story's called Batman. Batman's a real hero. And guess what Batman had to go through? Batman lost both his parents. He went through trauma. And instead of becoming like the Joker, he became a hero. So what you gonna do? You can't tell nothing to me. I'm free. I ain't never been to prison. And I've been locked up multiple times. With some hard niggas. In some of the hardest jails in the country. But through God's grace and mercy, I never went to prison. Because I never was evil. I never did anything but never took nobody's life and went too crazy and beat a chick up or all that stuff, man. All that stupid shit. There's billions and billions of women in this world. So if you're tripping over one, then you're a fool. And I don't care what she did. Other than trying to kill you, get away from her, bro. Care if y'all got kids or whatever. I don't care if she cheated, whatever, bro. Get away. Live another day. Endure. To be a real man is to be able to endure pain, endure heartache, and let it make you stronger. Remember, life doesn't get easier, you get stronger. Mentally, emotionally, and physically. But if you're not practicing these things, if you're not practicing your faith, if you're not praying, nobody needs to know that you're praying. That's between you and God. You could be praying. I pray every day of my life, and I still go on the block and be out with the fellas. Nobody knew. And if they did knew, so what? Because I got God on my side, that's why I'm winning. So, control your emotions, learn to endure pain, and keep your faith. The most important thing you'll ever do with your life is pray. 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 Because God loves you. God loves you. But you got to be patient to see his love for you. And when it comes, don't be ungrateful. Recognize it. Acknowledge it. See, we always acknowledge pain. When things go bad, oh man, the whole sky is falling. Oh man, why me? Why me? But when things go good, it's, all right, that's what's up. And get away from people who don't enjoy your pleasure. What I mean is, if you got something good going on for you and they hating or they jealous or they envious, get away from them. I don't care who they are, family, friends, strength. I don't care who they are. If they don't love you, if they don't want the best for you, get away from them because they just miserable. And misery loves company. But God loves your company more. I love y'all. One.